So, hi, Chris. Thanks for chatting with me today.
Happy to be here.
So, you're an engineer, and I'd love to know how has that combination of skills helped you in the world of clean energy?
Clean energy projects are complex, right? They involve all the technical side, they involve business, and they involve a tremendous number of legal contracts. So, just over the course of my career, I've made sure to try to cover all those bases. I started off as an engineer, engineering undergrad. I did graduate school in engineering in a field, sort of an electrochemical field, very similar to renewable hydrogen. And then I studied business school part-time, like a lot of people do in an MBA. And even just recently, I graduated with this master's in law degree a couple of years ago, just as a way to continue my education in the field of energy and infrastructure.
You're also a big advocate for hydrogen in Canada, and I'd love to know more about the work you're doing there and why it's important to you.
Yeah, well, I'm the head of hydrogen for Canada for Siemens Energy. Siemens Energy years ago decided to enter the renewable hydrogen space in the form of a commercial electrolyzer. And, as many of the conference attendees will recognize, there's a tremendous growth potential for renewable hydrogen in Canada right now, both for domestic use and also for export. So I've sort of determined that my own mandate and my own mission statement is to make hydrogen a success for Siemens Energy in Canada. And I do that in a number of ways. A lot of these projects are very long lead time developments, right? Between the time you decide you're going to start a project and the time you get shovels in the ground is many years, like any large infrastructure project. It's to be expected. And so the question is, how do you continue to do the right thing to get hydrogen ingrained in Canada from this company's point of view? And so I have tried to advocate for hydrogen and for our company in parallel over the years. We have the Canadian Hydrogen Association, which we've been a member of for several years, and I've been on the board for several years. And so a couple of years ago, I decided to put my name forward to take a leadership position in that organization. And I was elected the vice chair a couple of years ago and chair last fall. And since then, I've been trying to do my part in the time I have during this term, try to grow and shape the organization to continue and enhance its role as the voice of hydrogen in Canada. I think it's a really important industry and a very rewarding industry to be part of right now. The hydrogen industry, it really focuses on the difficult to decarbonize sectors, especially in the industrial scale. Hydrogen, there's a tremendous amount of hydrogen being used in Canada and the US and globally annually. The question is really, what are the emissions? And so the modern or the most recent surge in hydrogen in the hydrogen industry has been all about making low carbon hydrogen. And that's the challenge that the industry faces, whether it's fossil derived or renewable derived, how to deal with the potential emissions. So for all those reasons, it's a very rewarding and very interesting place and time in the sector to be involved.
Oh, it definitely seems like it. And like you said, sometimes there's a long gap between the planning and then actually putting the shovels in the ground. So I still think a lot of people view hydrogen as nascent, right? It's still in this nascent stage. What would you like people to know about hydrogen's business opportunities and potential?
Well, first off, that there's a tremendous amount of hydrogen already in use. I think it's important to recognize that hydrogen is not a new thing. For decades, it's been a feedstock in chemical processes, and it's been part of the energy industry since the beginning of the energy industry in refining. It's been in food and beverage industry. It's all over the place. What do I want people to know is that it is essentially the way to tie industry to renewable energy. What we have in renewable energy is low carbon emitting electrons flowing around. And what we have in industry is a demand for a product that currently has high emission. Producing hydrogen in a conventional way is still fairly high emissions. So what we have is a term that in industry we call sector coupling. You couple the industrial sector with the renewable electricity sector. And how do you do that? Hydrogen. You have this universal molecule that you can make from renewable electricity and use in industry to replace a highly emitting input at this point. So that is especially true on the renewable energy side, where the electricity is the feedstock to create the hydrogen. But it's also true on the conventional hydrogen production area, where you can be reducing your emissions using electric drives, electric compressors, and all the things that are involved there, as well as capturing and storing or using the carbon emissions. So it really is a way to decarbonize those difficult to abate sectors and connect renewable energy to industry.
And I know you're speaking at HyFCell Canada this June. Please tell me more about your opening session and what you think you will be covering.
Yeah, I mean, the opening session is really an opportunity for us to kick off the conference in its entirety, to really set the stage for all the discussions that are going to be taking place over the course of the conference, and to introduce a couple of key speakers. We have the Minister of Natural Resources, Jonathan Wilkinson, to give opening remarks. And we have the minister from the ministry called Emily. She'll be speaking, as well as the CEO of the Canadian Hydrogen Association. So the idea is to really set the stage for the discussion, to talk about recent developments in hydrogen, as everybody's interested in where is this going right now, and then to really roll up our sleeves and talk about what are the issues, what are the technology barriers, what are the policy barriers, regulatory barriers, and ultimately what are the business barriers to getting hydrogen projects going so that we can reap the decarbonization benefits of hydrogen. It really is a great opportunity for me too, because I'll be showing up in two capacities. One, in my company capacity, to talk about the interesting work that we're doing, and we really are part of the hydrogen industry globally. We've got some great recent success stories. And also, as a representative of the board of the industry association that really represents the hydrogen players in Canada.
You alluded to some of the work that you're doing at Siemens, but what are you and your company most excited about these days with the work you're doing?
We are most excited about the renewable hydrogen projects because that's where our new technologies come into play. We have a large-scale electrolyzer that has a lot of design advantages for large-scale renewable projects. We really have chosen the target market of gigascale projects where a tremendous volume of hydrogen is produced and consumed at a bulk scale. Many of our friends in the industry are focusing on other aspects of the market, meaning smaller electrolysis projects, and not just differences in scale, but differences in when you go from a small to medium-sized electrolysis project to a very large-scale electrolysis project. So the ones that we're interested in are in the multi-hundred megawatt electrolyzer range. We see projects where developers are planning on building electricity capacity that is of the same order of magnitude as the local grid. When we look at Atlantic Canada, for example, developers are bringing on so much additional power that it will potentially eclipse the size of the grid that it's attached to. So these are infrastructure projects that are the largest renewable energy projects, in some cases globally, and that really give our company an opportunity to deliver on the brand promise that we've developed over years. Siemens Energy is a widely recognized equipment supplier known for quality and reliability. So the projects that we're excited about are the ones where we can bring large-scale equipment to large-scale projects to make a significant difference in global emissions. We're very excited about the potential in Canada, and we see that it's getting closer to reality every day. Super exciting. We will always have an energy industry, no matter what. The energy transition is a very exciting time to be part of the energy industry because so much new technology is coming on board. And really hydrogen is just one element of that new energy industry, the energy transition. So hydrogen has aspects of across the spectrum of energy requirements. You need to know policy, regulatory. You need to know how business works. You need to understand contracts. You need to understand chemistry and the users and uses of these products. And so you just need to, if you put yourself in the center of this industry, you're in the middle of a firestorm of change.
And looking toward the future, I mean, you've mentioned some things, but is there anything you're keeping your eye on?
What am I keeping my eye on? In a word, it's demand. In the hydrogen industry, it could be looked at similarly to the renewable energy industry. When we had a massive influx of solar and wind coming into the energy system in the past couple of decades, what we saw is new supply entering into an industry with existing infrastructure and existing demand. In the hydrogen industry, what we see is a whole bunch of potential new supply coming into an industry that does not have really the infrastructure in place to handle it, and in many cases doesn't have sufficient demand to meet the supply, especially at the scale that's required to keep prices low. So really, the crux of the matter is the demand. And so the thing I'm keeping my eye on in the industry is who and where are the major demand centers for new hydrogen production. Because as with any new technology, and especially new low carbon technologies, the cost of the product is higher than the conventional alternative. And we recognize that. So the question is, in what industries is that cost worth the difference? Who benefits from it and who pays for it? So I'm looking at things like government support on the offtake side, regulatory requirements for use of low carbon emitting fuels, and essentially businesses that can recognize the demand for low carbon alternatives from their customers. I think when you put those three things together, you really look at where does the market pull come from. And when we see that market pull, the supply side and the infrastructure side will be very quick to follow. People are lining up to produce hydrogen to feed that demand. So demand is really the area that I'm keeping my eye on.
Oh, that's a good place to keep it. And you made great points. Well, Chris, I've loved this conversation. Is there anything else you want to share that I didn't ask about?
Just that, I encourage all industry participants to go to the HIAF Cell Conference in Vancouver in June. It'll be a great opportunity to understand the state of the art of the business and also to do it in a beautiful setting. So I'm really looking forward to the conference.